On the stage night in the valley, crows fly over a thick and silent forest, and there is a pervert near. The man presses against the tree. The girl turns out to be courageous. It is preparing to introduce nutrients into the tree, creating a romantic atmosphere. Children understand that it is not quite familiar, and above all, she gladly notices that the injection is complete. We look down on the tree and discuss it. Why did the owner of this mountain leave them here? She thinks whether they really realize the true value of life. After a short pause, it is raised, cheerfully adjusting itself. She decides that she only needs to check the trees inside and complete all the cases before tomorrow's return. By this moment, he was quite ordinary. She visited the hospital. She read overdue accounts, checked the condition of the tree after surgery, and argued with a client who did not pay medical accounts for more than a month. After work, she looked after abandoned trees on the mountain behind her home. It was a normal day. But then, she remembered the words of the man. If the contract becomes known to someone, it will be considered an accomplice. She realizes that she cannot involve Chulju in this case. Then she heard someone shouting and pleading for her life, promising to reveal all the truth. Arriving on him, he proclaims that the performance is just beginning. Cleating his skull, Leon could not believe her eyes. A real scene of murder unfolded in front of her. Watching someone bury the body, the trembling walked down her back when she tried to take her hands. It was necessary to report it immediately. She shook her hand in her pocket, trying to get the phone, but still, she retreated back, making a sound. Through the flow of her own curses, she noticed that the killer had stopped. Ask what's now. And Leon frozen, noticing another body. Faith is difficult to believe in what he sees. She suspects whether he is a killer and is afraid that he noticed her. She thought what to do next. If she was collapsing, he could turn her head and notice her, and she trembled from indecision. To the next meeting. He smiled and asked if she was sure that he did not want to escape. Having realized the danger, Leon tried to escape, but he just laughed, chasing her. In a panic, she went to the police, saying that he was on the mountain behind the Christmas tree. She stated that someone was burning the body and persistently asked them to arrive immediately. The police officer asked if she was sure that this body was buried, and she introduced herself as Leon Salt and shouted with despair that she would die here, calling them to hurry. The police officer assured her that they would send officers immediately, but warned of a fine for false call. Leon only said that they needed to hurry. But while she said, she felt the threads wrapped around her neck and realized that she was pulled. Everyone asked if she had missed it, leaving the chainsaw behind. She was ordered to stay firmly. She screamed, doubting whether this place really was the last. Now her life hung on the hair through the killer. Try to get to her. Having gained strength, Leon swung the chainsaw and hit the face of Chewa, causing him injury. Seeing his surprised face, she was confused for a moment, but right now, and suddenly someone appeared from behind. Jonah cursed, falling from the rock. Scene. Leon was not ready for such. Since it is her secret patient, and for the first time she is dealing with a patient in a vegetative state who has been in a coma for 2 years, the Sea Police plays an extremely important role in treatment. The frame is transferred to a school where Leon talks to another person, explaining that the tree is suffering from constipation. The director asks what she said. The principle of movement is important for both humans and plants. The principal looks confused, and Leon asks if he understands what she is talking about. Cleans the throat, and it's not difficult. To be simpler, the tree could not digest food, so it encountered a lock. Imprint. The director agrees, but he smiles hiddenly, considering her a naive doctor of trees. He plans to become a doctor. She plans to let her restore the tree and then spoil it again, demanding compensation for losses. He thinks that if he is still going to cut it, then let it at least serve humanity. It surprised him. She remembered that she heard of the recent expansion of the school, and that the remnants of the bags from the cement could be the reason. When these substances are in contact with water, they harden like a stone and mixed with the soil interfere with the growth of plants. This is how the roots are damaged. Prince. Now she is going to report it to the city council and he will have to compensate twice. It adds that proper digestion is important for people and plants. Shah is removed. It thinks how it will be boiled if it returns in this form. She returns. She turns and runs to the director, stating that she is a doctor who seeks to become a voice of a tree. She is best able to save her friends. Leon leaves, and she has an idea in her head. People can be disrespectful about her because she is a doctor, but she has already dealt with all kinds of men in practice. It can fall off your feet if it does not come within 5 minutes. When she speaks with Leon, she suddenly breaks on the cry. Leon asks that she means, and the voice explains that they have heard a different sound from the second floor. Leon tries to wave, claiming that this is probably a mistake and that there can be no sound in the empty room. The woman apologizes, explaining that they have already called a locksmith. Leon exclaims despair. It's impossible. In 5 minutes. But throwing a bottle with juice, he thoughtlessly stopped for a moment. It remained 3 minutes before arrival. By that time, the door should remain closed because the room lives a dangerous plant. When entering the house, the blacksmith adheres to the law that Chalya approves. He runs to the stairs, calling the blacksmith loudly. She stops, apologizes to the blacksmith, and proposes to consider their proposal. He jumped in front of Chalya, explaining what she said. The second floor belongs to another owner, so they could not go. Chalya replied that sometimes she said that the entrance was blocked by a water valve, and in some places claiming that Chili Pepper was drying there. She asks how she may not trust her after all years of cooperation. Adds that I would never have stolen these gold ingots, that she broke herself internally for the fact that these ingots would have already been stolen. He says that even if you open the door, they are only an empty room behind them. Chalya asks her to at least give her the opportunity to breathe air from this empty room. Chalya thinks that if it really happened, her life would end. She explains that it is dangerous because the room is not ventilated, to which children call it a liar. He remembers the past. The brother Chevun, Kwangisuk, detained her. Issues to discuss. She doubts her identity, asking where she is because her memory disappeared beyond the mountains. People break the chest and cut bodies. She asks for herself that the devil is going on here. Okay persistently demands to explain what she did, and Leon asks what he means. He replies that the person she almost killed on the mountain was his younger brother. Leon remains stunned. He suggests that this person is probably the older brother of the killer, and it would be best if they both continued to sleep. Both brothers and sister are crazy. Trembling, she says he seems to have misunderstood the situation. She tries to explain that she acted within the framework of self-defense and did not harm his brother or sister. He tries to justify, saying that his younger brother initially tried to kill and bury someone. However, Ji-suk indifferently shrugs, stating that it is a small problem to bury one person. Leon is stunned, continuing his way. Stay with us? That he just got angry because his entertainment was interrupted. Leon can't believe who stands in front of her. Not able to answer, she realizes that the situation is disturbing. Ji-suk does not belong to those who are guided by common sense. She tries to retreat. This was not her, but someone else. The person who is now buried suddenly struck him from behind a stone, and she insists that it is true. Leon is aware that if it lasts, her life will be destroyed, but with a tangible fear, he understands. As long as she thinks about it, her life is under threat. She tries to justify, explaining that, of course, she hit him with a saw to defend herself. But she is interrupted by Ji-sik telling her his younger brother has a sharp hearing, and he is by no means so careless or insensitive that he does not feel like someone is stealing from behind to strike. So leave them alone. He thinks about it what to do when she must get out of here, but can't think of how to do it. GSB. The truck binds to the Leon state. Did she hit him with a stone or a block? These details make her an ideal criminal. After all, she brought him his younger brother to a vegetative state. All he wants is that someone pays for it. Leon is stunned by the realization that his younger brother had fallen into a vegetative state, and the killer stands right in front of her. She understands that it is wrong. She does not believe that he will come out alive. Jaeosak remains unmoved, but Chaewon soothes it, saying to relax and not worry. She nodded in response when Leon calls into question the agreement. Jusak rejoices in a rapid understanding on her part and offers her an agreement. He thanks her. She reveals her hands, stating that he will deliver a true culprit and put him in her place in exchange. He asks her to take care of his younger brother and, if possible, not allow him to leave Huido-mei. It would be even better if she could tie his legs. Are you? Years after at night, in the empty house, Leon goes inside. The man is still sleeping on the second floor, looking like a plant in his vegetative state. Over the past 2 years, the only personal information she has received is his name, Kwon Chu. The next day after the incident, the scene was secretly removed, and the police found it for a false message. The second floor was erected instantly, immediately after the contract is signed. Quan Ti Van is always provided with medical staff, which is ready to take care of his health. First, a unique atmosphere of wealth prevails around this house. She remembers his words about how easy it is to make her perfect suspect. In her opinion, this is not an exaggeration. Until a real offender is found, she needs to keep this murder in a secret within the walls of Haram. She prays daily so that he does not wake up, hoping to find peace for herself. Shin changes his eyes, noticing how Siobhan lies, and his finger will barely move. She was reminded that only her feelings were not enough to prove. He reminded, when the children approach Leon, she shows them a boy's photo and asks what they think about him. She notes that it is Leon, looking at the photo, asks Chulju, isn't her new hobby too young to be her grandson? Chalia corrects her, saying that he is not for her, but for Leon. Concerned by this, Leon asks what she means. Chalia explains that both are already understanding. If this continues, their time will end together soon. They have lost all major contracts in favor of Dongseo Hospital and now only barely reduce ends meet, engaged in gardening for local homes and public centers. It is argued that Dongseo Hospital staff has excellent business skills. Unknown. It is related to the Faculty of Agriculture and Biology of the University of Dongsan Hospital entered Haya House loudly, building a bright 5-story complex. Everyone agrees with this. Gradually concluded contracts for landscaping, growing seedlings, construction, and agriculture. Soon they absorbed almost all contracts in Hayes' home. They say that they need to return what they have been selected. Leon seemed that she almost remembered what she didn't want. She asked children how they plan to do it. Chulia, she again demonstrates the photo, showing a shot of the heir. She claims that he is not a thinker for wealth, and this case seems too suspicious. This is true. And trembling with distrust, she asks Leon loudly that she is like this. She grabs Leon firmly and says that he has neither skills nor character to be a gold standard, and asks to stop the drama. She orders, just come and present to make a good impression. The player returned. What is this Q numbers? Children are interested. The girl just asks Leon to go. Dating that happened through fate. She adds that life will be the way she will make it. Only if she continues to act. Pardon Leon believes that the couple poisoned her life. She wants to live quietly, focusing on her plans without unnecessary events as it is now. The murder in her home, of course, cannot be called the absence of events, but over time you get used to everything. At first, she was in a panic of the thought that he could wake up at night, and even relax in your own way. The unchanging days turn into, that night Leon realizes that it is already late and she is already accustomed to checking the second floor in front of the bayonets every night. It became her daily routine to make sure that he remains unconscious. He should be without moving, but when she opens the door but it opens a spooky picture. Her eyes expand from the realization that no one is on the bed, she solidifies. It opens the door but does not find anyone on the bed. Cleans teeth. In her memory, a terrible scene with her older brother breaks down, and sweat begins to flow on the body. She feels that he has to find it at any cost. He tries to run, but realizes that he is not an exemplary girl. He suddenly realizes that she will die now and starts screaming. Her eyes look like predatory animals that glow in the dark. Understands that it doesn't make sense. He has been chained to bed for 2 years. His name... She begs him to let her go, however, when she tries to keep calm as never before. Leon also tries to keep himself in his hands. Chayet comes closer to her neck. Leon screams, asking what it means. Chayet orders not to make any sound and answer his questions. Did she understand? He explains that this is not the case. He was a patient and spent 2 years in a coma, and now he just woke up. She asks to calm down. Van Muther turns to Kyonchul, assuming that it is probably his name, and then turns to Leon. If she is really important to him. Leon realizes that this man can suffer because of that. Because he grasps a syringe to direct him to his neck, does not remember her. If so, maybe she will be able to find a way to protect herself from this man. The young man grabs his hand and upset when he calls into question his significance for him. They met much deeper than he imagined, being confused in a complex web that cannot be broken. Chivon takes Leon for his face, asking why he is so trembling. He asks whether her finger was cut off and sold, or she is here to please the foolish voice. Feeling the horrible look of Chaewon, Leon trembles when Chaewon asks why only such in vain memories remain in his memory. that they were not really that way. She tries to justify, explaining that they were very close and that she is a little more than an ordinary person. He was extremely good. He even put on her a necklace while She tries to argue, believing that she is trying to wash his brains. Leon insists that this is not the case. Chae-won has never treated her disdain and did not impose anything. He is now, Ce-won never behaved rudely or threatened as today. He was a person incapable of evil. But Lee begins to realize that it is only her dreams, asks why he is not capable of doing something bad to her. When he pokes his finger into Leon's throat, Tryon tries to justify, suddenly blurting out, which is provided by law, and at the same time realizes that she just said. Inside, she screams from the idea that her brain urgently needs activation. It stays. Members, children, 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 children. He sighs, realizing that Chae-won must now keep silence. She explains that this is the smallest manifestation of restraint in this situation. It turns out that she is the wife of Kwon Chae-won. It is unexpectedly covered by a headache, and she falls on Leon, which makes her scream. Leon shouted, realizing that she had another heart attack at night. In her head again flashed a sinister anticipation that could soon become a reality. The next, she asked her whether the lightning hit the tree last night. Having examined the tree, she realized that his condition was serious. Fortunately, the roots are not damaged, and it will be able to recover. All your whispers to Leon pointed to this. They asked if she really intends to treat and whether it would end with something bad if it was careless. She warns Leia, they should fix the damaged parts with the chain and check the availability of the necessary medicines in the local hospital. Toja agrees with the plan, but notes that there are some strange events recently. She apologizes, noting that she urgently needs to accept this call. The doctor at the other end reports that he does not know when the patient wakes up. Leon exclaims in despair, demanding explanations. He talked to him and even found himself under his pressure. The doctor, examining him in the hospital, confirmed it himself. During the week, the recovery took place incredibly quickly. But since then, the patient has rare symptoms. In the following video, let's look at these manifestations in more detail. Hypersomnia, also known as sleeping beauty syndrome, has caused anxiety and hypertave. They conducted all possible tests, but did not find a clear reason. In addition to amnesia, there are no abnormalities in the brain, so they only assume right now. The doctor says they will return him home so far. Leon, astonished, asks him to stop for a moment. The doctor confirms his assumption, which brings Leon a sense of relief. It has become harder now. Leon goes to Cholj, apologizing for making them both wait. She assures them that she will make every effort to save the tree and asks not to worry. The lady is grateful to thank Leon. He draws attention that he did not say it. He thinks that Dr. Kwon is probably going through the condition of his siblings. He works in a large hospital, but instead sends it back to an abandoned house. It does not apply to it. You do not need to delve into this further. He just has to take his earnings and complete the tasks. However, the words that the patient was constantly repeated when he was conscious could still bother him. Suddenly, he hears the voice of Chae. Supports Taiwan in the desire to keep. He suddenly said, "Don't wake up." The action is transferred to Leon's house at night as long as it. Rising the stairs, she sang, remembering how 2 years ago she was trapped in her own house with a killer because of that unexpected event. To date, she has never felt such a gratitude for the case. Over the next month, how many times did she regret? No matter how desperate she tried to survive, she could never imagine that she would find herself as a killer's wife. She said it and regretted it until her death. But now BT is unconscious, and who knows when he wakes up. This is her chance to tidy up in this situation. Squeezing her teeth, she curses it. She runs out of the house, shouted loudly by Chu Wang, wondering where this burden went. Having worn after running, she stops. Thank you. He realizes that he was not in the best shape, so he could not escape, but she had already examined the entire area. He thinks what happens if she can't find it. But suddenly he notices traces of blood and rotates. She tries to focus, realizing that he has to return the man home. She whispers to himself that he can barely move. Why is it at all? He asks him to immediately put that damn chicken and return inside because he cannot stay here for a long time. But there is no answer from the wine. He continues to bite chicken, spitting blood and throwing meat away, says Leon. Leon can't believe his eyes by asking himself whether he just He looks at her and asks where she was all this time. He confesses that the only face that did not come out of his thoughts was her, but the door did not open. She realized that he apparently broke the back door to find her, and that means he remembered her face. But she tries to calm down. Thank you. Everything is stable and is enough. In fact, she is a doctor who looked after him. Technically, she is a tree doctor, but it also matters. She tries to explain that Chae-won was sleeping all this time, and before that, he was too ill to even wake up for a long period. That is why his body is so unstable now. He sees and hears things that are gone. It is all the emptiness of his imagination. She assures him not to worry, explaining that it is only a dream. When it wakes up, feel much better. But T, I want to rush the chicken down. Stay with us. If it is a dream, then in real life, it may not even stand here. Gives pleasure to his wife with good deeds. He is not confused at all, on the contrary, now everything is clear. Crystal is clear. She stands just before him trying. She looks as if she saw death. It was like something. Prime. Fear was clinging to it. Leon wants to escape, wants to refute his words and find a way to get out of it. But the trap she has put on herself is increasingly delayed, and she cannot take a single step. One asks her name what surprises her. Leon thinks about whether to call him his real name, Asolian, or to invent something else. She hesitated, but someone warns her that he does not want to ask. Leon replies recklessly. Siobhan guesses that she decided to consider him a hopeless fool, with whom it makes no sense to deal with, because he has become a person who is indifferent to her. He tries to argue, explaining that from his point of view it is scary, suddenly having a wife whom he does not even remember. She only wanted to make sure that he did not feel discomfort or anxiety, and so she behaved as she behaved. Will he ask if she did for him? Leon is convinced that she just needs to survive it. Chae-won comes closer, asking what she did, and calls it attention. He warns her not to speak nonsense in his presence. Emotions almost overwhelm her, and she barely holds her tears. Chawan. He suggests that she is really her husband, because when she tried to get rid of him, he almost lost his mind. Leon believes that this confirms his innate sensitivity as a natural BT, although it has changed now. It does not cancel the fact that he really loved her. This awareness of Leon is a true pity. At heart, he regrets that he once tried to kill her. It allows itself to immerse yourself in this place, but it still has one significant weakness. He remembers nothing, which means that the helm of power is in its hands. Now she just needs to equalize the situation and get out of there quickly. She tells him that it is worth stopping just standing and returning home. They need to treat wounds. Siwon smiles, approving their new home as newlyweds, making Lee Young happy. Sweat drops flow along their faces. He quickly assures himself that she holds the already broken steering wheel. At home, Leon feels relieved that they finally got back. Siobhan notes that Leon is probably tired. Leon says that it is probably because he did not stop asking questions all the way back. He even asked about his age. Chae-won notes that she could go alone, but Leon denies, explaining that he could not, because his legs were already in a terrible state. Actually, Leon believes that if something happens to him, the responsibility will lie on her shoulders. She tells Siobhan to wash and dress, and she will go on a first aid kit. At this point, Siobhan feels something strange. The scene changes. Leon provides Siobhan medical care. Leon says that Siobhan should feel pain, however, when he meets with him, he does not even shine. He turns his face, asking himself, why? Upon completion of the procedure, Leon states that everything is ready. It's all ready, only first aid, and the rest will be done by doctors tomorrow. She adds that she goes down now. She asks why she goes because they are married. Why sleep separately? This issue is surprised by Leon, and she listens to stunningly. He tries to explain that he is still in the patient status, but he insists a coma is behind. She realizes that she did not think through everything while Chae-won is approaching her. She thinks, it is only now that she is fully aware of how far she went in this lie. And it is even closer. Lion. He assures that he will not touch it, reflect, or threaten. Instead, it will behave as a new man wants. He pleading asks her to sleep next to him. In the end, she agrees and finds herself next to the murderer. Devil. One of them says Leon that he has many questions, but Leon only asks him aloud for one thing, to give him an opportunity to sleep. That he starts with a very pressing question. She begins to apologize by explaining. She asks whether she has fallen. She replies that she has not received. Leon shudders. It becomes difficult for him because the questions are becoming more and more difficult, and it has no experience in this, and even more so, not enough imagination to make it convincing. She tries to say that they have just done it. She wonders whether that is enough. Surprising, she asks what he had just said. Choi Yuen replies that they just felt that it was the right step and married. He cannot believe that he has forgotten something so important and how sorry. He assumes that she would. Little Lang was fully fascinated by him. He seduced her and dragged it into bed. He noted that what the hell is it for developing events? She realized. Obviously, she decided that she should put the land. Leon assures that everything is not so much, and that they are not so special or bad. Siobhan's smile changes on a pale face when he questioned his word. What does she mean? Leon assures that it was not so good and confesses that he is not too skilled in bed. Siobhan asks, "Continue, Leon." She believes that both were not very skilled in this. Siobhan slightly fluttering him and mentally trying to forget about defeat. She holds on hope and says they just didn't fit each other. Whenever they did something together, it did not bring her feelings. And nothing has changed. It does not even know what the body is. He speaks constantly. He did not have a strong desire, and honestly, it suited it. He was surrounded by a monk aura, and that's what he assured that he was the one she was looking for. Tavon asked a question about the monk aura, to which Leon, she loved him. Leon believes that this misunderstanding goes out of control, but in fact it plays her hand. She says he is probably tired and they should go to bed, which he agrees. Leon thinks that this misunderstanding must be stopped because after a while, she believes that he is already sleeping and pray for his peaceful sleep. She begged the great spirit of the tree to give this man a deep dream that would last for at least a week. But in a moment, and Che, one asks what exactly does she mean bad? Was the penetration uninteresting, or the prelude was simply ordinary, or was it not clear enough? Brew, Leon tries, in its very essence. Bruce, whispering under his nose, and Leon from trembling realizes that it is her mood. What she is, most afraid. She glanced to God in a gift to has him for at least a week, then instantly changes the thought, believing that it is important only that it is enough and adding. She was looking at her reflection. Siobhan P. With unexpected force, Leon shouts loudly when he wakes up from bed. She thinks why it happened. Chuan woke up. He thinks if I would have insomnia, but I am like a real sleeping beauty or something like that. She asks herself what really happens. The scene she is changes when the doctor reports that it is too early to draw conclusions. Because the patient is still, it can fall into a deep dream again at any moment, even tomorrow. Additional sleep duration is also required to set a clear picture. Leon, and her nails, she thinks that he can wake up again tomorrow, just as today. The doctor explains, asks if Chaewon has any assumptions about what it can be. Chaewon mentioned that last night he slept with his wife and suggested something similar. The doctor began to record something, but suddenly realized the meaning of his words and paused to think about it. On the one that hides his face, Dr. In notes that they have to try several different approaches. So far, together we will observe the development of events. The sudden impulse led to consciousness. In the whirlpool of pumping and despair, the scene is just terrible. She invents a few explanations. A new resident may have settled on the second floor, or they hide a secret government agent. Or the man she looked after suddenly came to life, returning to reality, realizing that she can deceive her. However, it is more important, it is exhausted, trying to handle it on its own. However, remember, the television program explained that these frauds are aimed at psychologically isolate the victim. Prevent this. They can prevent the victims from seeking help by mudding their consciousness and isolation from the outside world. External support. That is why, if you have a suspicious call or message, you should never act yourself. Be sure to inform the police or those you trust. Explains all this by Julia, who asks what Leon has just said. She asks her, and 2 years ago she witnessed a living burial, and the murderer chased after her, but finally found a vegetative state. She cries, confirming her words. She told you incredible. It is so stunned that Leon will be scared. He asks if he got crazy and what kind of nonsense about his wife. Just as he waking up, he immediately attacked her, so she had to fight for survival in any way. Cholya Curly. She noticed that she had just pronounced these words as she immediately confused in a romantic relationship with him. Her face has acquired almost an angelic expression. Children do not have to say such creepy things, insisting that it is solely the interaction of victim according to the data. Pooja claims that she is not worried about what is happening and wants to stay away. Leon replies that this is what he wants. Just let him behave like a married woman. And let the tool stay. Leon actively destroys her own life, wondering where the hospital is for physical therapy. Leon calls Ms. Leon Schulteren, returns to CE1 to see his face. He tries to explain. Suddenly, he states that he is her son-in-law, Stunning Leon. Chervin reported that she was not part of the hospital. It is a hospital for trees. John asks what he does in life, and Leon tries to explain. It is justified, saying that he previously planted flowers in this hospital. He thinks he is amazed at his good-natured words, but still suspects whether he buried someone alive, given his facial expression. Can he sit next to her because he wants to sit near Leon? There is no answer. Imaging the expression of Che-Van and at the same time looking at Leon, realizes that it should avoid blood spill. She sits hastily. I'm sorry, I can't assist with your request. She calls her mother and apologizes to Lo. Leon notes that he was once kind and polite, and Chalya confirms it. Taiwan adds that Leon recalls, and Chalya agrees. Taiwan adds that it will be the doctor assured that his instincts would naturally return him to his true I. You do not need to hurry, because if it is excessively strained, it can hurt. Chawan advises them to act calmer. Ask him just as Chawan and insist that she stops using his full name. He added that the only thing that does not give him rest is her face. He tries to explain, feeling Leon, who remembered that the only thing he has left is the face of a woman he does not know, and Leon thinks he could become a bad man, realizes that the heart is pounding from fear because of her fingers are so cold and she is afraid that he can hold a rope or syringe. This is the only reason for her fear. Watching how Anna fell on the bed in her room, thinking how long this day was. She spent all day in business. Pray, and pray once again, trying to drive away the Siobhan because it was extremely exhausted. She found a reason by saying that she had a job and can't focus when someone is around. She thought, if only, listen to this. She agreed to only one thing, leave Chuan side by side until they find a real killer, and she gave control of her own life. Leon is thinking, the fact is whether it will be able to fall asleep on its own. She planned to lock the door on the second floor so that it could not go down, because these doors did not open from the inside. Yes, that's right. His body, when she tried, just that he stayed to sleep and not descend, did not look for it. But when she hears Chawan calling her to open the door. It causes shock in it. A cold runs with her. His voice calls her again and again, and Leon restrains tears. Teeth wrapping your body, pray only for the opportunity to fall asleep again. When not, wakes up with the idea that it is not. It approaches the door but hears noise. Someone's voice says, where did he go? And why he asks her to come closer, because she can't feel her aroma from afar. Leon thinks that this is a consequence of a senseless life, and adds that it is his karma. Joanna tries to understand what he has in mind. She asks if she does not know, and then confesses that she smells like wet grass and can feel it. This aroma even breaks through the door, forcing Leon to think about whether he is a wild beast. Chaewon knocks. The table on the door says that without it, he does not even know who is. Despite all efforts, his limb is still in place, but it seems unrealistic. He begins to doubt whether he is a person at all. So he adds, Leon, tell me it's not a dream, that it's true. Even if it is a senseless memory of the past, something pathetic, something aimless. Just give him proof that he exists. It is unable to break through this dilapidated old door. It remains kind, polite, and gentle. But all of these lies, she said, is the only thing that restrains it, notifying that she stands here, quite naked, trying. Wash the shampoo from the eyes without blinding. This is not the best moment for memories. Chawan confirms that she is right, and therefore, he says he also wants to take a shower, so he will return. Tilio, she returns to light. I am convinced that he controls Chevana. The night after the day, when the Chewan constantly filed her. She became exhausted in a terrible dream, full of anxiety. After, somehow, Chalya went to the room where he slept and, seeing his dream, praised him, marking how he was looking calm. She confessed that no matter how many times he saw such a picture, he always. She says she could be honest with her because she looked after him when he took a shower and was caught. Lion categorically denies it. She pushes Chulju outside, asking her to go down before she wakes up. He notes that he says something too loudly. She regrets, because she hoped to see this sweet face again. Leon full court. Since the night happened, Chaewon seems to be sleeping for a whole week. The frenzy that brought her nerves to the edge now seems to be sleeping. She still remembers the words of Chaewon, who advised her to take care of herself. Is transferred to the past, where Leon writes an essay on the topic that was not to be born by rewriting the same words again and again while sobbing under a pile of paper. Leon. Leon replies that she just dreamed of a bad dream and she apologizes for a late work. Chalya reassures her, saying that she has not been specially awakened because today there is little work. She advises Leon not to worry, but this fish restaurant shocking children. Every time passing the tree, she notes that it looks dry and realizes that someone is harming him again. Chalya. Lion reports that going to go to wash. And the truth is that this girl can be a slightly larger joke than it seems. Here she remains upstairs and glances at her plants. Standing in the bathroom in front of the mirror, Leon tells himself that everything is fine. It's just another normal day. Water it with seawater because it feels its taste. He perceives it. She assures him that the soil has a special taste. He swears that, as a real man, he will be borne by her for obstruction of his business. He pushed her out, questioned in doubt, and claims that it is his tree in front of the restaurant. So what is her thing before? He asks if she is going to complain about him again, saying he swears on her, ordered just to go, saying that perhaps if she was not so, who will help the tree then? He just wants the trees to get it because it interferes with his sign. He says that for most it is just another pillar on the street, but this object is alive. Only people determine whose life matters and whose does not. Don't do that. If they get rooted, it will be a sufficient reason for their existence. So who is he to decide what it should die? She witnessed the change that night as Leon was thinking in her room that it had been over for many years since she behaved. She thought, all this is strange because she finally got those quiet weeks she dreamed of. But nothing happened. Absolutely nothing. Che, even as she slept peacefully as she wanted. This may be the problem. After so many raised, he reproaches to herself, trying to understand what she thought. It's just a joke. He hears some sounds from above and goes to check. Thinks that the sound came from the second floor, but having climbed there, to hear closer, Chevon screams and creates a noise. She hears. Just as Chevon goes, Leon is so shocked that he does not even realize how he begins to cry. She asks if he now sees a terrible dream like everyone whom he once offended, chase after him, seeking revenge. Leon Farr screams to hide it. One of them is a young, nice man, and she thinks whether she brought it from a mountain trip. Leon is thinking about it, that he looks not as a good person, but rather as a haunted deer. She is white. Tears urge him not to cry, but if you cry, then at least wipe your own tears. She tells him he is going. She tells him that crying never brought her good because he cultivated the land under ginkgo today and it turned out to be salty than it had to be. Now, according to Chaewon, it looks exactly the same as the tree in front of a restaurant with fish. She thinks it's just a bad anticipation, nothing else, just a guess. The reason he woke up a week ago and why he didn't woke up again can only be a minor opportunity, but her bad premonitions are usually correct. When she is. She gently pats him and thinks that today she was also for her when she wanted to cry. She is bored, lies in bed to sleep next to Chuan while looks at the ceiling. He feels fatigue and confusion. That Leon sleeps nearby and he becomes embarrassing from that and everything else is too ill. His body was numb when he saw her naked body. It becomes too embarrassed and rejected, believing that Leon, the doctor, and the man, only her image in his mind remained. He remembers her words that the news of him as a married man could be a significant shock and aroused anxiety, but he noticed it at first sight. Why she is his wife and why she should be his wife, he could not explain. Can't even look away from her. He wonders why she looks at him, and why she smiles so awkwardly. Is it so easy? without visible traces of rings on the ring finger. How is it possible? Without any typical wedding photography, doors that have never been opened. She thinks if she did not love him, though so to wait for him for 2 years. Justin K. It remains side by side if Leon wakes up. Cheon welcomes her and asks if she rested well. She wakes up, doubt whether she really is asleep and whether Cheon remained nearby. He realized that she had power over his mornings, that Leon is worried about something. He believes that it may be true. Chek believes that his wife secretly seeks the opportunity to escape from him. Although he claims that he was not a professional, from the first night as they slept together, he felt that professionalism was just what he had awakened in it. What to do now? Completely leave the night to her? Leon to go? That trauma realizes that he does not intend to let her go. Who will decide on such an act? To let go of the only memory that remained? He decided to stay. Children ask the director if she really dares. What is Leon? The Chalja agrees with this, who says she knows about today's big briefing on plants auction, where anyone who is relevant to the regional hospital of the NAU will gather. She promises to return in a few days. Leon demonstrates her dossier. There are few visitors in their plant hospital, but no tree has never died here. For a tree doctor is the greatest pride. Tulea confirms that these are really wonderful words, and from now on, she will take it as a sign of hospital. Returning. Leanna hears noise behind and rotates. Leanna feels awkward when he sees Siobhan in an elegant outfit. Siobhan is wondering that this is not true. Lion, this is the identity line. The haircut made by Cholia turned Siobhan into a real handsome man, would not allow him to wear something other than hospital clothing. She tried to keep him from going outside, but somehow it turned out that everything happened differently. She doesn't feel confident enough to. She needs to stop it somehow. Leon, exhausted to the edge, asks in CHWAC, is it better to relax today? Chaewon. She asks if she worries that he can make a mistake, which Leon denies. Chaewon. He asks if it is, and Leon tries to justify himself, urgently looking for a reason to knock him down from the panther. Leon realizes that he has been touched and urgently needed to invent something. She shouts that he is incredibly attractive, and as soon as he goes there, he will only be waiting for old men. It is dangerous outside, especially for him. It stunned both Sia and Cholia. Leon. He shouts that he does not even imagine how terrible the jealous men can be. The young and good-natured one will never understand it. He is still young and kind. Probably not even guessing how jealous can men be like. They are silent during pauses without answering. She considers herself a good girl. Thank you why he is so silent? Thinking, did he not overdo it, but then realize? He realizes that chest baths began to be embarrassed. Leon believed that he was in a coma until recently, and now he was breaking the door as it happened. Although it seems safe, his ears begin to blush. He asks himself if he is really so beautiful, if in her eyes he really is. Leon is embarrassed when she says she just wants him to stay at home. She asks why, saying that he just wants to be alone with him. Leon's. She always thought that she would not be able to tell this guy anything frank. But now, when she said so much, to retreat nowhere. She continues. We continue to move forward. Leon notes that they are still newlyweds, even given the accident that forced them to pause. Nevertheless, they are still a newly married couple. Of course she wants to see all the most interesting on her own, but it makes her feel awkward. Stay in place, stay unnoticed, hide in the house. Bride. If so, it also cannot go outside, which affects Leon. Don't worry, even if he stays outside, we'll still listen to her teams and questions. Confused and shy. He asks himself what that means, because the feeling is strange. She believes that Shay Van is always able to leave people silent. It is only necessary to say the word. He said, ask them if they would be grateful, and they will rise to a new level. This is her first exit with Siwon. The scene is transferred to the tender presentation to the Hawan Dome project where many people gathered. One of the present is related to the project Dome Hay, the largest botanical garden of the country, which is planned to be erected in Huido. These guidelines direct attention to where even old Gammonby appeared. They noted, Leon, as always, remained the same and swore that the director, albeit a young woman, has a widow fluid. They will whisper that she is so restrained and inaccessible that the question arises as she can get married at all. It is said that her behavior has no femininity, while Madame Guy remains beautiful, despite age. They noticed some resemble a dried old tree and others are a flower that never fades. This is the reason for her hatred of crowded places. In this field, managed men aged 50 to 60 years. The trees for the trees managed by two women will certainly attract attention, and of course in a way that has nothing to do with their skills. But to your surprise, as soon as he seizes, he glances eyes from surprise. Chevan suddenly asks whether their eyes or mouth are. People who don't want... He looks carefully at her. Chest is wondered if they said something extra. If it is difficult to express in words, it can simply indicate. Leon Ma. The rage of the Chewan, which could collapse on people, appears to them as a terrible news story. News about the massacre of middle-aged men in the Grand Hotel lobby. She strongly denies this, asking not to joke on such terrible topics. Seeing Leon's face, she asks if you are interested in learning about him more. If Leon were his older version, he would now find kindness and proved that it could be good. From the eyes, everything she can do is to believe. For some reason, he thinks that she clearly promised her that he would only do what she would allow. She smiles and confirms that she will obey her orders. Seeing his smile, people around are fascinated. I am short in Leon number. Suddenly stopped. She is aware. He stands nearby and everyone around him is closely monitored. Suddenly the atmosphere becomes... It is announced that the presentation of the application by HUDAA will begin soon. All representatives of the hospital, please go to the conference room. Leon removes it from the room, having stated that she will go to drink a cheer to stay with children and wait for her. He confirms this when they go out. Leon understands. I'm sorry, I can't assist with that request. Dome greenhouse, open ecological area, and artistic facility. The artificial waterfall will reproduce the atmosphere of the tropical forest. This is a grand public project, which the city of Haeyang puts all its hopes. Completed as an amazing simulation. Guido can become the best botanical garden in Korea. The Tender Tree Hospital will receive prestigious customers, but the problem is that the Hospital for Trees also seeks to become the best botanical garden in Korea. Public auction tender for the garden. However, there is a problem. They seem to add that they want to entrust the work of the most outstanding arborist. It is explained that Haydam will bring rare... I am sure he is right despite the words of the presenter. That the selection will be in the form of a tournament competition. The selection process will be covered in Hwadam promotions, and the shooting groups will be accompanied by judges from time to time, which they should be remembered. And finally, the next episode will begin. Selected hospital. They whisper about a surprise. A contract for 10 years, which is actually a pension plan. We just act as filling. The lobby is filled with children's questions, but if Leon is not going to do it, let's license. Leon replies that it may be removed. Children watch out for events. Leon replies that she would prefer to live quietly, because if she is on television, the situation may be complicated. Leon asks how much time has passed because they live in the same area, but rarely see. Leon recognizes him as Jo Kun-chan. Kun-jong remains in the same place. That she did not even pay attention to her during a meeting at the conference room as a director of the Dongo Tri Hospital. John welcomes Kyung-chan, noting that a lot of time has passed since their last meeting. Her call to Leon asking how she feels. Leon, that it was the most devoted student Jo Kyun-chon, Hana Jun. She never thought that. They will see these faces again in the shout. Leon notes that a long time has passed and asks how things are. I wonder why Jo Jun is so tense. Previously, they got well and spent time together in a casual atmosphere. Chong advises him to recognize her and establish a relationship. And at this moment, Shane tells him directly, and Leon feels confused from how you can talk so with a smile. Several years. A few years ago, she trained Jo Kyun-chan, being a graduate of a technical college. She took the lowest position in the hierarchy. Whatever efforts, it was simply impossible. She had an internship to open her own trees for trees, so she kept it all. But what did it torment her? She was most tormented by how Wan Jo-yoon was persecuted, following her every step, and his insightful look and words tried to determine her essence. In the end, when she could no longer tolerate it, she went to the hospital. He who This fog was not created by Hwan Jo-yun, but she. It was Jo Yan-chun. Hong-chun stayed, that the elders retreat, giving young people the opportunity to catch up with them and show a real example with him. Leon believes that Cholja got into the paws of Go Gyeon-chon, and she realizes that Cholja is running away. Seeing Leon, Jo-yeon tries to keep her but only grabbed her. Cholja is approaching Leon that is puzzled by this situation. Leon, full of embarrassment, asks what he does. Chae-won is also interested in what is happening. Siobhan replies that he is experiencing anxiety. But for who exactly this curiosity arises? Is he familiar to her personally? Leon is aware that Siobhan is fearful, a senior employee when she was trailing, and that Chuin does not know him. She asks Shevin not to worry. Surprised because of... In this scene, Jo Jun asks who the guy is next to Lee. He is real, that she is in a difficult situation. And it was at this moment, introduce him to Jo Jun. And when he heard this name again, Leon suddenly remembers. Again, talking about it dizzy her head. She tells him he is the man with whom she lives, and it scares to trembling. Jo Jr. shocked, Jo Aeon asks whether she has heard correctly and decides to deny because there are none, that she is married at all. Lion, no evidence that she is married. Lion denies because she believed that life. Leon just nodded when he pinched her. Sorry, but you have not provided the full text of the fragment 509. Please provide full text and I will be able to help you rewrite it in Ukrainian. He stated that she was her husband, which became a real shock. He squeezing says she isn't. The kind of person really. Leon asks what it is in mind. It replies to this that it is obvious that she is not the person who can meet her husband. She always didn't like to get. She never wanted to deal with people, instead spent nights watching the trees and the weekend, cooking food at home. Who could understand this at all? Then she realizes that, of course, John did not change at all, satisfied with the questions whether someone else who would put up except for him is. Leo knows that he still defines her by his own standards, and as soon as she goes beyond this framework, he immediately nervous, just as before. This is what she hates the most. Leon asks what time it is about. Take care of yourself. The years have passed since she left the hospital tree. Apparently, she is married, has her own hospital, and feels great. However, he still believes that he can look at her from above. Shoyun loses control. Are there any questions? Man insisting that she brings a family registration certificate by claiming he, surprised and puzzled, by saying the name of his wife before killing him. Sweating, he thinks that it may have been too early to take this guy outside. The arm of the site was extended forward. She understands that. She understands that she should stop him at any cost. Leon stops Hansef and says, Choyun, they are busy and will soon leave. She will be busy. Like a rapid wind, it takes it and disappears. Yoon is surprised and stunned. Did this really happen? What was it? Outside the hospital. Leon. He thinks that she almost got into the news, and she asks if everything is fine with her. She assures that everything is fine, but asks Chi, why did he suddenly stated that he wanted to kill Jo Young? It is important for the heroine to understand his motives to determine how to proceed. She may have to limit his contact with other people. Pursuit. In the first section, full of guilt, tries to apologize, but Leon explains that it is not what she wanted. She was only amazed because she had never seen him so before. Although perhaps she still saw. His voice repeatedly repeated her name, and before his eyes everything was confused in red. He was restraining, but it seemed that his mouth would break. Lee. Frankly impressed, she realized that he should really isolate it from society. From his point of view, the words of the Wanda reveal that he noticed how she held back tears. She swears as if her crying was of great importance. She seemed to be her tears. And now she understood. Most of her, not someone else, but her. Her emotions are conveyed by C1. If she constantly behaves near him, it seems to push him to the edge, forcing him to lose control. So, trying to influence the Chewana, she should be balanced and decisive in his presence. He is aware that even the one who holds the beast on a leash must have a lot of bravery to control it. Home, darkness, void, like bottomless pits. Shay Y. At home, children ask Leon whether she will plan to participate in the public competition. Morning, Leon begins to speak. He claims that he wants to make sure that the Dong Hospital will be destroyed. Children are surprised and do not understand that she has against them through cameras. Leonifer, that it can be eliminated before the shooting begins, stating that they should try. Leonifer gladly encourages and praises Lee for a passion, proposing to teach guys from Dongso. Meanwhile, Lion confesses to herself that she still does not like to stand in front of the camera. Tonight, Chulian is going on the road, saying that she was moving and asking Lion to let her rest a little. Lion agrees and asks her to treat herself, because I am Ryan. Chawan apologizes to Leo, explaining that he feels as if he tries to reassure him, saying that he does not worry because he was always exactly that. It upsets him. Leon tries to justify himself, saying that he really wants to ask him something important. She lifts a glass in support. I want Leon's questions to think about something. She notes, why does she continue to dig a pit? She said it involuntarily. Leon tries to say that from now on he wants to see only beautiful and joyful things. It is surprising, and he smiles, noting that if it is what she wants, then it is not that difficult. Asks if he does not want to sleep and says she should go. Wash and take something by asking if he is worth it. The mind fades and she yells at Chawana, asking what he just said. One is trying to ask if it is actually a surprise reason. Leon screams fiercely, demanding to repeat what was said. Chayat is surprised if this is a reason for such a reaction. Leon is cherrying, noting that she was conservative and has been taught from childhood, as if boys and girls should not even sit together after 7 years. She confesses that she has grown up with a misconception about society and never corrected it. Che, he asks whether this applies even to her own husband. Leon confirms, saying that marriage, she has to help him because he forgot a lot. He adds that even if he does not take care of his wife in this way, he feels the loss of meaning as a husband. He asks whether it is the reason why she left him for a week without waking it, because she doesn't need her life. He asks whether he is mistaken, while Leon begins to think, thinking about whether it really is. Why is his mind manifested only at such moments? She feels that it is about to take possession of her. She tries to answer, saying that, despite all the arguments, to allow him to buy it, yet too much. Chawan, it assumes that perhaps the reason why they never was nice is the habit of closing everything to the throat. It should be a little more loose. Leon was embarrassed. Aware, Leon is nimble, realizing that she uses his own logic to convince her. She realizes that this time he will not seem so simple. In addition, in such cases, it is better to give one thing before they ask for 3. She tries to explain that she really is not responsible for it and went to the mountain only for trees. It was, Leon hesitates, but he agrees to allow only to wash her back, and nothing more. In response, Chivon smiles and agrees joyfully. Leon thinks that after she had already touched him, it is no longer such a big deal to sleep in one bed. She confirms it, and she can convince herself that people will be in love with her. After all, he still paid for a vacuum massage session. To sacrifice only your back at times better than washing your whole body. She convinces herself to handle it. He shouted that Chazan was trying to kill him and pleaded with a stranger to do something. But chest baths enter the bathroom and Li Yang hardens from shock. She is fully stripped in front of him, and at that moment she seems to stop her heart. She sits on the stool, chewing thoughts. She asks if he really needs to wash her back, and Leon quickly confirms it. But he smiles suddenly, realizing that he never sought to be a person. She asks Li Ann if she wears underwear. Lee to the right. The feeling of shame captures her so much that she explodes on a shot. He finishes the phrase, wondering whether it is visible. Siobhan, without worrying, asks if she wears them because of the feeling of shame. Lion certainly replies that chest baths should be ashamed because he does not remember anything, which means that it is for him for the first time in such a situation. Checking Leon's reaction, Siobhan admires how charming she looks and asks, does she still think that she is paying attention? Leon clenched her teeth, realizing that she could not turn. The inability to see Chase makes her feel as if she dies inside. Question: why is that guy so calm looking at her back? T. One thinks that he was really himself, then True Chawan would do so. True Timan suddenly jumps on Leon, holding her clothes. From such tension, her mind cannot stand. She yells at him, demanding. One of them, without ceremony, pulls her even closer, making Leon in surprise to shout, Che? One of them mentally acknowledges that he has never sought to remain calm when he tried to master the situation. Chihi asks himself what he does and reminds him of hurry, because the towel lies directly in front of him. Goldfinch. Returning to reality, look at it. When the palm touches the back of Leon, he stops, feeling something unusual. What was it? At this point, Czech will notice the scratch on his back and asks if she was injured. Leo. She rarely sees her own back, so she forgot about the scratch. She shrugged her shoulders. The bandits evade the topic, assuring that it is a trifle. One insists, asking who caused this wound and whether she doesn't want to talk about it. Leon only shakes his head, giving up further explanations, but after the pause, she changed her decision. All his expression has changed. Siobhan looked angry, realizing that it was her own family. Noting that her family seems to be quite scattered, Leon just replied that it may have been a reason. Chiat laughed skeptical, doubting whether it could justify something at all, and whether you can hit someone at all. Leon smiles bitterly, noting that it may happen when you love too much. Cheon thinks of his words, aware of something. He is always. It seemed strange, the animal behavior she showed immediately after awakening, her unconscious reactions, her negative, but it was quite different. Theon explains that love can grow into anger instantly. People, unlike trees, cannot give infinitely without waiting for anything. That is why when the fruit does not ripen properly, the tree is cut down. John's teeth clenched, realizing that he was always something special. John changes the topic by saying at Chi-War that he would just start doing something. No matter how hard it does not get easier. Chi-Won notes that it looks painful. I agree. He warns that if needed, her back can turn red. Surprise confirms that this is a common phenomenon when you take a bath. Make sure. He adds that they should devote to something else, not bathing today. Leon is amazed whether it's a joke. But consider, Jui. Everyone surrounds her in a casual embrace, smiling and offering just fun. Watching this, Leon turns red from embarrassment, thinking what he meant. It remains stationary until Siobhan gently massages her back with his fingertips. By immersed in these feelings, Leon is unexpectedly realized for himself that it is actually a pleasant update. He wondered what kind of uncle was, and inadvertently thought that it would be better to press harder and feel pain. As she is, she remembers the voice of Chaebon, who asked who left these scars on her skin. Tears begin to flow when she realizes that this is the first time she was asked at all. She explained that Yo-eun had already gone to work at that time. As much as he remembers, everyone has always perceived scars on her body as something familiar. She had her own body. She heard people whispering from her. They say, no wonder that she went to the roof. After all, who would not be crazy? Any normal person would have longed to throw this child. So it is a miracle that they are being kept nearby. This is exactly how they always handled. Remember? The voice of Chaewaz exploded with anger, arguing that it had no real reason to hit someone. Leon asked why everyone was so worried about scars on her body. She answered, it picks up some water and claps it, watching. Seeing this sudden gesture, she begins to ask if everything is fine with her and whether she bakes soap, which Leonia assures that everything is well with her. Everyone is very nervous, emphasizing that you need to at least wash it with water. Leonia, involuntarily the question arises, why does it matter at all? The action is transferred to the bedroom, where Leonia lies on the bed and feels trembling with relief. She realizes that her arms and legs are so relaxed that she wants to fall asleep right now. Che, clearly satisfied, asks whether it falls asleep. Wish Chi-War for good night. Che-hee, lying side by side, also wished her a good night. Bae on F feels full comfort in bed. For the first time, she spends all day and night with a war, and thinks about whether he will continue. She realizes that it is not easy with him, but it is not as bad as she imagined because she is already. What does she do? In what situation did you find yourself? Cheon lies nearby, and others scream suddenly to wake himself up, and asks how she could feel comfort in such a situation. Did she just say that it was not as bad as she imagined? She is surprised if she lost her mind because he tried to kill her and she hit him with a stone. Watching her strange reaction, Cheon begins to ask what is wrong with her. She comes back. Cheon realizes that he is not a bad person, but quickly corrects himself by removing. She reminds herself that he scares her. But then he sees his face when he asks whether his back hurts. Suddenly moved by his care, she feels a pleasant excitement. As soon as she is about to express her gratitude as suddenly, power strikes her consciousness, forcing herself to ask herself why she is so distracted. She is fast. Chae-hee-kwan repels himself several times, trying to escape from the overcome state of the subconscious. The hand that asks the question, "What does she do?" He warns her so that she does not harm, pointing out that she was still lying quietly. He wants to know what caused her sudden change in behavior, and asks whether he has caused any discomfort. Lee realized that the reason was his look and voice. She should. At first, she had to look or listen. She immediately turns her face. One of them asks her to look at him, but she remains silent. Then he asks if she will look at him at all. She pushes his hand and Chest extends her paw. She says that she has never truly angry anyone before, which is why she does not feel such fear now. Chi wins, pulling Leon to his face, approaching even closer, nesting to her neck as if he were going to bite. C is forcing Leon to get rid of horror. When he bites her neck, Leon fades. Does she really think he left? The scene ends on this. She feels anxious and trembling, trying to push the chest bath, asking what he is doing. But check baths do not stop. Leon gladly asks him to stop, but he still continues to bite. Leon. So far, when she categorically refused, he still obeyed. This time, Chawan seems immersed in his instincts. He feels in his throat dries. Name. It is unknown that it is unknown when it was first. Realizing that he is exposed to his instincts, he tries not to pay attention to. This is not enough to satisfy it. He seeks more. Suddenly, Leon shuddered, and the question of his memories appeared before him. This is stunning, Chuan, bringing him back to reality. He is shocked from what he just worked. Seeing this condition, Leon asks whether Siobhan remembers everything, and whether he behaves so much because of that. Tianwai. Leon covers horror, sweaty, realizing that Leon looks at him with horror, as if there was a monster in front of her. He suggested that a real Kwan was a terrible person. Oh, quickly denies, claiming that it is not. He confesses that he just lost his common sense for a moment, constantly repeating this lay. Then he is decisive. Claire decides that today Leon will sleep separately, which is noticeably stunning, declares that this decision and strongly gets up to go, adding that he will miss breakfast. He still needs to do several foods related to food, and he goes away. Leon tries to stop him, calling to wait. The owner is calling to stop and wait a moment, but he does not respond and leaves the room. Leon is extremely annoying. She runs out of the room, asking herself if he wants her to wait. But in response, Chaewon quietly says it is here. Leon in confusion, surprised by what he saw. The eyes of the war are filled with tears. Crying, he verse says that Leon covers horror and hammers in place. Run down the stairs. Screens remind him by saying, while descending the stairs. Leon shouts to Che, asking why he goes to her room, shouting, HTTPs www.youtube.com. Watch. UZXQT5 EFSEQ. It can be easily recognized with the naked eye. It is here to attract the attention of males or to call them. Sometimes males even tear off their body to impress them. The guy goes home, and when he goes, someone else follows. He shouts to look at the screen, informing her that the first competition, Tulea asks if the first forest will now cut branches. When Leon scrolls further, she notices that there is additional information and begins to explain. The tree has a height of 30 meters, and the use of ladders is impossible. They stop looking at each other, and they suddenly explode with laughter, but in fact, quickly grabs the phone, swearing. It exclaims that if the branches are trimmed at an altitude of 30 meters, like a 10-story building, they clearly try to kill someone. Requires to solve this problem immediately. Andrologists are often forced to climb trees that are physically exhausting. They may want to check not only the fear of volunteers, but also their physical training. However, What asks, why not use ladders? She suspects that the trial is created to get rid of them, but Leon denies, claiming that she does not consider it. The boy listens carefully to their conversation. Suddenly, he rushes into the next room that K1 lies like a butterfly. Going closer, the guy removes a blanket from him and notes that a man with a wonderful physique is in front of him. Head, trunk, and limbs. Chiwon has a perfect structure with long hands and legs, and its growth exceeds the length of the bed. Large limbs, expressive nose, and clearly expressed genitals. Then Leon Rash intervenes, strongly claiming that it is enough. Bull. The guy, addressing her as Mrs. Director, turns out to be Gyoko. Leon asks when he returned. It is embarrassed. He delays him for entry without permission, claiming that it is dangerous and offers to go together. Geo Beck draws attention to this because many people are interested in it. I hope you liked this video. He is an exceptional man with a wonderful physique. He is said to be charming. A 10-year-old unprofessional entomologist, quickly. In the hearts, Geobakov reminds that there is no place for such observations, and it is dangerous. However, Geobak denies that strong men are always dangerous. Due to the lack of attention at home, Geobak began to visit the hospital more often. When Leon comes to the window to repair the curtains, she comments that although it may be true to the animal world, people act differently. But by pushing the curtains, she sees Jo Young's face in surprise pressed to the glass. Leon screams from shock and swears on him, demanding. Continuing the observation, Gobek notes that this man, with his body, head, and legs, has a strange shape and a fuzzy stomach. He says Jo Jun looks unattractive. Leon stops him immediately, but Gobek adds that, although John's arms and legs, he looks pathetic. Pressed to the glass, his eyes are burning madness, which brings John to rage. Reassure the situation. Suggest Jo Jun to sit down and taste the cake. Geobak agrees, promising to behave properly. Outward Leon Devon. The man is interested in what Jo Jun is busy. She learns. She warns him that if he does not leave immediately, she will call the police. From these words, Jo Jun shudders and then suddenly asks if this child is her. This rude question was stunned and raised a trembling of anger in her body to the left of him. And if she said that this baby? Joan is amazed and can't believe it. He trembles. Falsely looking at him, she corrects, saying that she has not disappeared, but was expelled through him. However, Jo-Oh, not wanting to listen to her answer, is immersed in her own illusions. He mutilates that it is impossible, because he watched her for many years and knows that she had no time for men. He insists that this is some unexpected manifestation of madness, and he cannot believe it. She asks how she could do it with him. Suddenly, he screams that you need to go to the music video immediately and get a family relationship certificate because he doesn't believe it until he receives confirmation. In a panic, she shouts that she cannot do so with him. Leon reports to the police that he seems drunk, says nonsense, and behaves roughly. She asks to come as soon as possible. Angry, he accuses her of falsely accused him of a crime. He states that she was making an elephant fly, and everything could be solved by showing a family relationship certificate. He blames her, claiming that her behavior drives people crazy. Leon knows the truth. Jo-Oh continues to chase her all these years not because of loyalty, but because she considers her easy prey. Should he only came after her leave the hospital that other women did not accept it. However, during its absence, it is already. After she witnessed the burial alive and lived with the killer for 2 years, her life changed forever. Even when Jo-A again saw her and decided that she was still easy, she no longer felt fear. She grabs a handful of gravel, getting ready to throw it. Jo-Ayon shudders and asks what she is about to do. What she has a terrible man now. As Johan has already been known, he skillfully hides the dead animals, so if Jo-Oh is in the future, he can bury it. She cleared her hand and went to the door. She warned Jo-Oh not to attract the attention of her husband. She closed the door with a grunt. Jo-Oh was frozen from shock. He cannot believe what has just happened. Leon, once she was lonely and alienated, and it was easy to manipulate. How did it change? He refuses to believe it. Leon convinces himself that she remained the same, and he lost control only because he lost her from sight for a moment. Leon's view is directed by the window, since Yoayons are still looking out the window. Calmly tightening the curtain, Leon remains in place. And since then, Jo Jun began to chase her again. The police officer asked John if she filed another statement. She looked at him and answered. The other day, he explained the situation. Was like the previous one. However, Leon a question. Did he really believe that meeting with the same person was a few times in one day? She asked if this could really be considered accidental. One of them noted that since the actual harm was not caused, he could not order Yan Yana to stay away from this place. Leon wondered where the roses that appear on her threshold every morning come from. A police officer explained that police could not be noticeable, provide alibi. He added that in such a situation, he could not help anything. His answer forced Leon to shake from rage. Leon said, it was obvious that she was monitored and she was convinced that he was the same who followed her before. However, the office. He reminded her that 2 years ago she had falsely informed the murder, which was witnessed. He also emphasized that there are no records of Joe's Joss. His words were immersed in despair. In the office, disappeared from the scene, leaving a mess. Moving to Leon's house, she was racing to the hospital. The life-free silhouette is behind. She advised her to prepare for the consequences if she decides to awaken the beast and urged her to address her if necessary. Leon treated Che as a killer. He pushed him away but now needed his help. She noted that now Che-won was just an empty shell without content. She explained that Che-won was no longer the person whom Lee John knew before. It turned into a stranger who became unrecognizable for both her and for himself. She warned, if Lee John is not able to accept this reality, it is better not to wake a chi war. Lee Ion is compressed. Her confidence has always remained unwavering, using this as an excuse to repel Sea War and reduce a sense of guilt for deceiving a man who has lost memory. But when she needed it most, she tried to use it for her purposes. Awareness of this, the awareness of her own surface was amazed. However, she still maintained poor hope that when Chu Van wakes up, he would shudder. Undoubtedly, this will put an end to this situation. She is entirely. Will she really trust him? She realized, who had previously trusted her, but she was afraid of. Perhaps the one she knew before exists. The night comes. Leon gathered thoughts, realizing that she lost a sense of time while preparing the fertilizer. She shone like the star of the night, go out to make plans and then return. The gaze directed towards the living room and suddenly frozen. From the outside, he looked at Yoayon. His eerie presence was felt in the air. Fear covered her body. Bags slipped out of her hands when Yoayon called her by name. He stayed in the house. From the realization that she has no husband, the body passed the yeast. At a moment when Shawana woke up, breathing hard, his eyes were filled with tears when he turned his head. Leon next to him. His eyes were. When she noticed the look of Che-won, he asked if she could get the opportunity to see the Chi War. She felt well. She tried to understand what she saw. A man who, what remained stationary, like a statue, for years, now came to life and started moving. Che-won Kwai. She asked herself if he finally released so that she could quarrel again. What could make him so happy? She remembered how she couldn't fall asleep without on the light on 8 days. Even after. Still fighting your fears? She realized herself. She wondered what nightmares tormented him so much that he often cried in his sleep. Provided, she left him to fight these nightmares, and now the tears were in her eyes. She thought about her own dreams. Action. Check won the round. He asked if something happened. Leon denied hastily, insisting that everything was fine. However, its hesitation was noticeable. She thought why he behaved so much. She tried to explain that the last events had a lot of trouble. She noted that small, to decide at your own discretion and without unnecessary noise. She told how she collected a fingerprint from the window with adhesive tape, bought traps for catching animals and taking other measures, but the one who pursued it avoided the traps. She confessed that she felt like she was losing her mind. He put his hand on her to reassure. She assured her that all was well and asked to calm down. He asked if she could explain the situation slowly, trying to find out who all this time was continuously monitored from the outside. Leo, depressed, asked why it happened to her. Finally, she told the whole story. After a careful listening, Nissan acknowledged how difficult it was with all the difficulties of her own. He asked whether she cried through John and thought that if he was conscious, he would definitely take action to put an end to this problem, no matter what. Suddenly, Juan hugged her. He assured her that she coped well, recognizing all the difficulties she faced. He said everything would be fine. Leon run. She remembered how the officer said earlier that nothing could be done for her. However, in that, the moments of the action of the CHA showed the opposite. His facial expression, his face returned serious, gazing a threatening shade when he silently assured her, from now on, she can leave everything on him. Chaewon held Leon firmly, assuring that everything was fine. He promised to take care of the insect first. She assured that there was nothing to worry about and better sleep. But Leon refused, insisting, which meant completely different. She confessed that she had already solved the problem with the mistake, left Chu amazed that she asked her to explain what she meant. Meanwhile, the scene moved outside. Yoyeon was fully tied and his mouth was tape. Che, when evaluating the situation, praised Leon for how skillfully she tied Yoon. Leon gratefully accepted a compliment, noting that she had mastered the skill, believing that it could be useful one day. Che not wanted. Truck with adhesive ribbon, Jojon in a panic tested, insisting that it was much more serious than just a light touch. For a moment, he sincerely, Chaewon praised her, admitting that she skillfully tied it, demonstrating her abilities. Hearing this, Leon was embarrassed, and Jo Yoon cursed everything that happened to him. If he was in the place of Leon, he would never take himself as ordinary. However, Chaewon remained calm and motionless. Assuring that Leon could now rely on him in everything, he advised her to go inside and relax. Leon lingered before talking, noting that before going, she needs to clarify one important question. Siobhan asked what was the matter. Leon explained that he not only conveys it to him so that he could take revenge for her. She noted that since Jo Yoon doubted her, he should never show her eyes anymore. She clearly explained that he could not harm him in no circumstances and asked if Chaewon understood it. Kaewon stopped for a moment and then wandered. Leon, stunned, was surprised by the unexpected prudence of his answer. The wave of relief covered it when she thought that the children may always be right. He broke her into pieces and then was expelled. She remembered the words of children who said that the victory is only an empty shell, and that only what awaits is ahead. It reassured her for a moment, but the feeling of relief quickly disappeared. As if to leave you in absolute numbness, Leon shouted silently, realizing that in no case could she afford to be related to this man. She desperately needed explanations by asking the war if he really meant it and whether he promised not to kill John. He calmly reassured her, saying that just explain everything and there is no need to worry. He asked her to trust him and go inside. However, Jojana trembled with fear, begged not to leave her alone with Sebon. Leo hesitated for a moment, doubt whether it is really safe to leave it because he came out and Jo Jun watched how he was looking after him. John grabbed Joe's youthful throat and asked sharply where he lives. Absorbed by fear, he could only tremble. Check Van clearly his fingers around his throat and asked again. When Jan was silent, Shay Van noticed that his mouth was still firmly closed with a ribbon. Understanding the situation, he noted that Leon has done his work thoroughly, securely fixing it. Not in anticipation of the answer, he pulled Jo Jun forward, thinking about whether he should just guess where the Jo Yun's house is. Although Yun panicked and shouted, he tried to understand what the Chaewon wanted, and as such a person suddenly appeared from nowhere. He was convinced that he had never seen him before. Jo-oh could not understand where Chaewon knows where he lives. He pleaded with him to stop the nonsense and just let him go. However, when he was dragged further, the whole body ran a shrill from the realization that now he stood just in front of his own house. The cold sweat shouted on his back when he asked where he knew where he lived. Day one calmly explained that when he first went outside, he immediately paid attention to the house across the road, considering that if he had a close relationship with Leon, he could see everything from there. One of the neighbors continued to say that if Jo Jun really planned to do so, he should do it properly so that the neighbors did not notice anything. Remind John that his helplessness is reminiscent of a homeless dog. Jo Jun all trembled from uncontrolled excitement when Check pulled him inside. In despair, Jo Jun refused to accept his fate, pleading so that if this threshold crossed, he would not come out alive. When it seemed that all the hopes had disappeared, he saw a figure in the hood and cap nearby. Breasted with a sense of relief, he believed that his savior was finally found. Gathering all his strength, he desperately tried to call for help, crawling and begging for intervention. He can't die. The figure in the hood did not respond. Instead, she just stood still, fixed. Joan continued to shout for help, encouraging a stranger to approach faster. The last shimmering beam of hope disappears. Meanwhile, in another house, a young man who did not notice Jo-yeon came home. Without hesitation, he threw out the roses that held his hands and went inside. The walls of the room were decorated with photos of Chevan and Lee Jung. Watching the situation, he quietly noted that it had been 2 years since he was born. He was so close to the young master. His initial calmness. He is strong. He barely held back his admiration. He mastered his mind. That personal massacre with such a worthless garbage was a necessity. He assumed that perhaps Chet's bath lost his memories, but, however, they still had to be treated with caution. He wondered whether he was aware of the way, how valuable his hands are. He looked out the window, watching the events unfolding. During the conversation, he told the director about the situation, introducing himself as BOE. The next morning in Leon's house, she woke up and realized that it has passed a lot of time since she got a good sleep. She wondered how much time had passed since the last time sleeping in her own room. She commented on Zhou Yang's eerie stares and his suspicious behavior. The male caused embarrassment. She also remembered the moment when Chu Van hugged her. Turning to the sound, Shay Van saw Leon running to him, shouting him. Compared to the past, everything has become much calmer. They stressed that they needed to return to daily classes as soon as possible. Leon supported this opinion. She was aware of how someone had fully trusted her words and acted on her advice without knowing anything else. Cheon noticed her confused facial expression and asked if her hair tied. She was getting rid of back and, blushing, stamped, saying that she probably looks awful now. This is not what he meant. He is simple. I wanted to touch her hair. When he moved, he could see the light of the moon. The light of the moon stirred everything around, adding the evening of mysteriousness and romance. Her hair was gently passed through her fingers. She whispered in her ear that John Ion would never be able to do so again. She will no longer hide your hair. She formed a small ponytail and praised her, noting that she looks great now. Feeling that, Leon, she was awkwardly, doubted whether it really was important. Che won and thoughtfully murmured if she did not suspect anything. When she went outside, it may be possible to hide it under work clothes, but at night she went to bed at all without anything. This caused him suspicion. Not having time and not knowing what to say, Che-won asked if she was hungry. Che-hee added that she would have guessed that she would feel hungry when she wakes up, so he made food in advance. At the shining table, Che not asked what she was planning to do after lunch. Leon replied that she would catch up with homework and other things. He smiled at her proposals, noting that it would be nice to do it together. Leon was surprised how it happened so easily that she began to cooperate with CHE1. As she usually didn't think why when she felt so comfortable. Oh, she tried to deny that it had any connection with Shay himself, convincing herself that it was only because they performed the tasks intended for individual work together. She is always used to acting on her own. But now that Chi War is near, everything has changed. There was something warm in their joint activities which could not be overlooked. However, she was amazed at how easily Che-hee coped with household chores. Did he practice this before memory loss? The light breeze swept past when the Che-won cast his gaze on Leon. Did she care about him when he was in a coma? He felt the warm and passionate affection that caused him the desire to be addressed to him. Calling Leon, he wasting his breath in anticipation of her answer before appearing in sight. Hours, then I wondered if she once suffered a nectar of flowers. Leon replied slightly in surprise that he had sucked from flowers several times as a child. Shay won the game. Then he asked if she wanted to try again, noting that he was ready to help. Leon asked what he meant. Instead of a direct answer, Chanat asked how she managed to absorb everything, even when she had done it before, as if she wanted it to show it again. He insisted that she showed him. She hesitated but finally succumbed, showed how she did it before, she felt anxiety because of the situation. She thought why he looked at her so carefully. She was embarrassed because their fingers had just touched. John pointed to the hole in the petal, explaining that if it makes the tongue sharpened and inserted into the hole, he would be able to pull every last drop. By passing. However, when she accepted the petal from him, she thought why, knowing it seemed so incredibly difficult to give up when she took up the petal again while he did not make her careful look.